Welcome back to Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. I am your host, Eric Thomas. Today, we are once again live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am joined by Nick Otto, the Chief Technology Officer at Kimley-Horn, and Beth Ihnatolya, the Program Director and Professor of Civil Engineering and Geomatics Technology at Wake Technical Community College. Beth, that's a mouthful and a half, to say the least, but a dang good title, and I am very excited to be joined by both of you today. How you feeling?
Good.
Good?
This has been an exciting week. So yeah, we're feeling good.
I feel like that every year at AU. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
All right. I'm glad to hear that. So today we are going to be talking about an incredibly interesting partnership between your two organizations and a little flair of Autodesk mixed in there as well, talking about how the programs at Wake Tech are feeding an incredible program at Kimley-Horn to bring students in who are fully prepared for the AECO world the day they step out of university, and a lot of the challenges and exciting moments along the way. So I'm excited to get into this because it really touches on the challenges of all of the staffing and everything that everybody talks about all the time, but we have to talk about it because it's incredibly important. Nick, I'm going to kick you the first question today. Could you start us off by explaining this partnership that I just alluded to with Wake Tech and how that's impacted your team at Kimley-Horn?
Yeah, sure thing. And I'm glad you're excited because we're excited. We've been working on this for probably 18 months, 2 years.
Nice.
It's a kernel of an idea way back, and we're glad to see it come to fruition. There's a gap between what we see coming out of universities and then what happens when you're in K through 12.
Yeah.
And we see the need for emerging technical talent, people that have a civil understand things like critical infrastructure and how these tools are going to be used as the industry changes and evolves over the next few years. And what better place to start that than at one of the largest community colleges out there, right in North Carolina, where Kimley-Horn's headquartered at Wake Tech. And we see that as just a huge potential to pipeline both staff for us, but also help solve an industry problem.
It's such a great opportunity. And I empathize with both educators and also with the organizations that are hiring because this gap isn't just tied to construction. I mean, I remember coming out of school and getting my first job and I show up and I'm just like, hello, my name is Eric and I have a piece of paper in my pocket that says I can do stuff. Please help. And it's really cool that you're being very strategic about how you bring those students and bridge that gap because that urgency, I think, is increasing, especially as the different labor challenges across the world continue to develop.
Right,
and so, Beth, I'd love it if you could share a little bit more from your perspective about the partnership and how that's impacted your programs.
Well, you were talking about coming out of college with a piece of paper and not being able to do anything. I think that is probably pretty typical for a lot of graduates, especially from four-year universities.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make those changes. And with the partnership with Kimley-Horn, we're able to work together to train these students while they're still in school so that they are billable and they are productive on day one coming out of school.
It's huge. And I'd love to learn more about how that shows up in the work you're doing. And I know there's an advisory board that your organization is part of. Can you tell me a bit more about that and how that shows up?
Sure. So our advisory board is made up 10 to 15 industry partners that are passionate about changing the civil engineering or geomatics profession. They've got a lot of determination to help change them and make them into productive members of the civil engineering and geomatics field. What we've done is we have advisory board meetings that usually once in the fall and once in the spring where we bring these industry partners together and we collaborate with them to help make changes to either our program as a whole. So we change the courses that we offer in our program, or we make changes to the courses themselves. So the software or the equipment that we're using. For example, with construction management a couple years ago, we were looking at, do we want to have two different tracks within that program, a horizontal construction and a vertical construction track? So we went to the advisory board, and that was a big topic of discussion that year. For civil engineering and geomatics, we added 3 new drone classes to our program a few years ago. And before we invested all the time and money into those programs or into those courses, we wanted to meet with our advisory board and find out what's the industry standard for these drones and what software do you use to process that data. Their insight and what's being used in the real world is invaluable to us.
Nick, I'd love to hear what it's like having your organization able to influence the conversations that she's alluding to here.
Right. Beth covered it very well. And our goal is to ensure that the skills and the training and the awareness of the industry that students have when they emerge from a community college or a 2-year program is in line with where things are within our firm.
And the pace changes so rapidly. I mean, construction
fast.
technology has this crazy hockey stick in the last 15 years. I empathize in that it's probably difficult to react to in the moment, even just for folks that are already working in industry to go, okay, there's new tools, there's new technologies. How do we make sure our existing staff can fit into that? There's so much to consider. And Beth, I know I also alluded to the Autodesk role in this conversation, and I want to give a little bit of opportunity to talk about that. Can you share how that's shown up in the programs that you're developing and how that's influenced the students?
Yeah, and I can tell you a little bit about how that relationship began. So last fall, Kimley-Horn, Tara, reached out to us and talked about how she really wanted to create a connection and wanted to help our program grow and expand. And Kimley-Horn has a vested interest in helping the civil engineering program overall, not just at Wake Tech, but throughout the country. And they're one of the leading industry partners. I told Tara, well, she has a strong education background. She has a good knowledge of the civil engineering program and profession, and she had some really innovative ideas. I was like, okay, come join our advisory board because this will give you the platform to get that information out. And this is going to give you the support for us to make these things happen. It just so happened that an Autodesk representative, Jason, was there. Kimley-Horn and Autodesk have a great relationship already. And she said, oh, he's going to be here. Would it be okay if I bring him to the dinner? And I was like, that would be amazing because he will have connections to all the different programs at Wake Tech that are using your Autodesk products. That was just like the beginning of a relationship that has flourished over the last year. Having that partnership with Autodesk has been amazing. Through donation that we have with them and this partnership, we have already started meetings to help redesign our CAD and Civil 3D class, and that's through help from Kimley-Horn. They're providing some real-world examples so our students can see the relevance as they learn the software. Autodesk is helping to design the modules, and then we have our instructors in there that are giving feedback on the platform we want to use and the layout we want. Having all three of those together has been really essential to making this successful. In addition, Kimley-Horn and Autodesk are also sponsoring some externships. So Autodesk is sponsoring those. Kimley-Horn is willing to work with us to be able to send our instructors out and let them see how industry is working in real time right now. So a lot of our professors worked in industry for years, but they've been out for 10 to 15 years. And as technology's changing so quickly, there is a big difference in what they saw when they were there and what's happening now. So that's going to be really important for them to have that too.
It's such a great 360 feedback loop. And to your point, it's so hard to stay abreast of everything. And I can think back to when I was still in university, and granted, I don't have a degree that is tied to construction, but I do remember the professors who had the knowledge and the perspective that was very informed by current industry standards. And the advice that I got from them made a huge impact in the choices that I made after university. And I went back actually, and I thanked those professors later. I go, thank you so much. I was considering a couple options that you steered me away from. This has had a huge impact on my career, and I'm very grateful for that. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but I do remember some of the other faculty who didn't have that perspective. And it became starkly clear, even when I was still in university, where I was like, okay, why are we talking about this? It's very clear nobody's doing this. And I think the way you're closing this loop very deliberately through the collaboration here is just incredibly exciting. And Nick, I want to tee up my next question for you because I was incredibly impressed when we first met, because everything you shared about how Kimley-Horn is thinking very futuristic and very future forward, I want to learn a little bit more about that. Can you tell me why your team is so future focused and how that impacts the decisions your team's making today? Because not everybody in construction is in the position where they can even do this in the way that you've described to me in the past.
I'll have to recall how I described it to you in the past.
It was very good.
But there's always this balance between, you have to look out 8 or 10 years, right? So you have to look out 8 or 10 years, and you're kind of looking through the crystal ball, figuring out where the industry is going to go, figuring out where technology is going to go. But you've also got to zoom in pretty close, and you have to think 0 to 6 months because you've got project deliverables, client deliverables. And then you have the middle of that, looking to the future of what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5. And that middle section, I think, is changing pretty rapidly now because the technology churn rate is 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. There's no more 18 to 24. So a 3-year roadmap is kind of useless. By understanding or predicting where we think things may be in broad terms, is there a job or a type of employee that, or a skill set that is yet to emerge, and maybe we think it will in 4 or 5 years? Let's start positioning things now for that emergence as it comes out. And are there roles we have today that you think in 5 or 6 years may not exist. Think about technology. Years ago, you had physical database management teams. You had a physical RDBMS manager or employee.
Yeah.
Those jobs don't really exist today.
Giant
right? 'Cause
drafting tables.
that all lives within the software.
Yeah.
Drafting tables don't exist. So do we have those roles that are going to change? And then build that into your current plans. So you're constantly going back and forth between looking out to the future and the very near term that we have to deliver for clients. Going back to the earlier comments Beth made around the three-legged partnership between Autodesk, Kimley-Horn, and Wake Tech, is you get their perspective as they're looking through the crystal ball, which is going to be different than ours because ours is heavily informed by client delivery.
Yeah.
Autodesk is very informed by what's on the roadmap from people like us and where they see the industry going. And then the community college systems are seeing what students are trying to achieve or trying to learn, and then who's coming to them asking for these roles. And you take all three of those perspectives, you can come up with some kind of an idea of within this boundary where you think things are going to be in the next few years. And we do that back and forth almost on a constant basis, right? To understand this problem, to stay right ahead of the curve.
I love that balance, and just being informed from so many different directions has such a big impact. And I think all of us, we're a little blinded at times by the knowledge we have and being very unaware of what we don't know. I think that's what I enjoy about my role is I get to ask all these questions. It's like, tell me what I don't know, because I don't know a lot. And especially when you're making choices for a business of the size of your organization, having all of these threads feeding into how you think about from 3 to 6, like you said, and then bigger picture, I'm sure it has a tremendous impact, and it's really cool. I'd like to hear a bit more about this internship program that you both mentioned earlier. Can you tell me more about it and how your team is partnering with Wake Tech here?
I'll talk about how we view internships, Kimley-Horn, then I'll pass it off to Beth.
I love it.
On this next wave. So we've had a very aggressive and strong internship program for many years at Kimley-Horn. In fact, this past summer, we had over 1,000 interns within our company. And a large number of those interns will make job offers too, and they'll join our workforce as they graduate next year. We have a very structured program, a lot of intentionality around that so that they not only understand us, what it would be like to join our firm, but they understand what it'll be like to be in the civil engineering AEC space. Now, mostly that's interns from universities that are working on their engineering degree. So the partnership with Wake Tech is opening up the potential for, I'll call it a different kind of intern, where we can do more of that same very intentional internship around whether it's CAD operators, designers, or technical jobs that are different from what we're doing today. So Beth, maybe you can best describe what we're going to try and take on there.
Yeah, so we have a couple different ways that we do internships. We have one option, which is a work-based learning opportunity where students will actually get college credit for going to work. So they would take a job with a company like Kimley-Horn. They would work 320 hours during the semester. During that time, we're getting feedback from the employer so that we know how we need to make changes to our program. Where do our students have deficiencies? Where are they strong? What do we need to do differently? And then our students are gaining really good insight. They also develop these measurable learning objectives or these goals that they want to hit while they're there. So we're making sure they're not just over there getting coffee. Like, we're making sure that they're actually learning while they're there. So that's one internship opportunity we have. The other positive to that one, before I move to the other one, is that it gives the employer an opportunity to try these students out for a semester and see if it's a good match for them. It gives the student the opportunity to try the employer out, find out if that's a good match for them. And if everyone feels good about it, they can keep them on longer. If somebody doesn't feel like it's a good match, then you can part ways, no hard feelings, just move on. The other option we have is an apprenticeship program. And through the apprenticeship program, students are able to work a full-time job. They get paid a fair wage. And then we have government funding that pays their tuition. So they can go to school for free, they can work and gain that valuable industry experience and get paid full time. And it's kind of like a win-win for everybody. I think that the partnership with them on internships, whether it be through work-based learning or through our apprenticeship program, is going to be a really good experience.
I love everything both of you are saying here. And it's so deliberate in a very refreshing way, because I've heard of the internships where they go, okay, I didn't learn anything because nobody trusted me to try, or nobody was actually mentoring me to help me build these skills to figure out if this is a career I want. I'll tell you straight up, my first job out of school, I only worked there for 4 months and things got a little weird with the layoff. But if I had known what I knew after 4 months of working there, I wouldn't have taken that job.
Right.
Because it wasn't what I was told, and it was just not very enjoyable. And so
Right.
in retrospect, it was a blessing that the layoff rolled in and I didn't get to continue working there. But I went in with no information, and in the end, it didn't work out. And I think we can be so much more strategic and helpful for those students because they don't know what they want necessarily. They've never had a full-time job before. They don't know what they're looking for.
And one other thing to add to that that's been a little tricky on our end is making sure that we offer our classes in a format so that they are able to be at work a certain number of hours a week. I mean, if they're only able to get there 1 day a week, that's not very beneficial.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can get them there, 3 or 4 days a week, that's a lot better. So we have some programs in our division that are offering classes 1 or 2 days a week all day long, and they're able to go to work 3 or 4 days a week, and that's been helpful for them. Our program with civil engineering and geomatics has been able to offer our classes in more of a flexible format, meaning that students can come sit in the classroom like a traditional student if that's what they want to do. They can log in on Teams and they can attend virtually and interact with the class virtually. And if they're at work and they're out in the field and they can't get to the computer, then they can watch the recorded lecture after work. So we're trying to find ways for students to be able to be with these companies and with these industry partners. And that way we're not taken away from them, but they're still able to get their education.
I love the flexibility. That is a very progressive and future-focused way of empowering them in a fashion that I most certainly didn't feel empowered. I mean, when I was going to school and working, I didn't have an internship. I was working at a pizza place for a while, and it was very hard because I'd go to school all day, and then I'd go make pizza until 11:30 at night, and then wake up at 6 a.m. and off to school again. And I think you're just giving them an opportunity, an even stronger opportunity than a traditional university structure may have. And the 2-year effect of or aspect of the program is really cool too. Like, the pipeline keeps going. Some folks don't want to go to university for 4 years, and that's okay. And you're really empowering and enabling them.
They build those great relationships too,
Yes.
right? You want expectations to match between the company and the intern. So they take the role and then they're successful in the role. They ramp up really quick, which is good for us. But then they tell their friends how good the experience was.
Yeah.
And then you can create a pipeline of, I really wanted an internship at Kimley-Horn.
Especially at a point
Yeah.
where we're having trouble finding talent to begin with.
Right.
These experiences make their way out. People tell their friends, they tell other students, hey, you should get into civil engineering. This is really cool, and here's why. And
Right.
I don't think everybody has that story, which is really cool.
And 6 months after you join as a full-time employee, we want you to say, my experience of being an employee matched exactly what I was told during my internship,
I like it.
right? You want that to match.
I mentioned a moment ago the challenge of prepping students, and I want to come back to that for a moment. You shared some really nice high level as far as why this is challenging, both with the pace of everything and the fact that educators sometimes don't have the access or the visibility to what's actually happening in industry from time to time. And that's all entirely fair. And so, Beth, I'd love to hear a bit more about how your team is really making sure folks are ready to hit the ground running. I know we have the internship program and everything we've already talked about. What else comes to mind as far as just making sure these students are ready to go and don't feel like they have to learn everything the day they show up at their job?
Well, in a 4-year university, you spend a lot of time learning theory and calculations. Well, in the real world, you're not sitting there and doing all these things by hand. So we try to give our students the tools that they're going to be using in industry that make these things faster. We know time is money for industry partners. So they're using things like AutoCAD, GIS, and think about the drones and the survey equipment. So we're giving them plenty of time hands-on with this software, with this technology, so that when they go to work, they're able to do something. For example, if they're using AutoCAD and Civil 3D in our program, we learn it in the first semester. They use it throughout their 2 years. When they go to work, hopefully they're fairly proficient with AutoCAD and Civil 3D. They might not know the company standards or things like that, but if they're given a set of red lines, they can do those on day one, and they're billable on day one. And I feel like that's what industry is looking for.
I'm inclined to agree. I can think back to my first job in construction. I got hired after the delightful layoff and a year of listlessness trying to find something new. I got hired as a proposal writer at a federal general contractor. I didn't know anything about construction, didn't know anything about proposal management, and I remember the first 2 to 3 weeks in particular, maybe the first month, the company was in the middle of trying to win this massive contract. So it was all hands on deck. Everybody's going crazy. And I got stuck in a corner, basically. They go, we don't have time to deal with you right now, which felt very bizarre as a new employee. We're like, am I going to get in trouble? I'm not really doing anything. I'm just reading these documents over and over again, and there's nobody here to mentor me. And that felt really uncomfortable. Even then, once they were able to pivot to saying, okay, here's how an RFP process works, here's what all these federal contracting terms mean and all this stuff, it took me 6 to 8 months, I think, before I would sit down in a bid review and a small scale proposal and feel like I had any idea what I was doing, what questions to ask, what to talk about. Even at that point, that's a lot of burn rate to say, okay, we've got a person here who's expected to be effective, but let's be real, very much wasn't. When it did click, I do remember the day where I'm sitting in a bid review and I'm spitting out all these federal acronyms, and I step back and think inside, I'm like, where did that come from? You know, and it felt good when it did happen, but gosh, was it painful to get there?
Yes.
So I want to click in a little bit more about how Wake Tech is helping the staff leading the civil and construction program stay informed. You mentioned that at a high level in the externships. Tell me a bit more about how this development goes and what that looks like.
I think we got several different ways we're keeping them informed. Obviously through our advisory board. So we're asking for feedback from them. We want to know what they're doing every day. We're looking for feedback on what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? That's some information that our faculty are taking back to their classrooms. We've got the externship options where we can send them out into industry and they can see what's happening on a day-to-day basis, and they can see what software they're using, what their procedures are, how things are done. You know, you can read about it in a book. That's not what's happening in the office. And then we also have conferences like Autodesk University. We have training through GIS. We have training through our vendors for various equipment that we use. We make sure that we have plenty of professional development opportunities for our instructors to keep them abreast of all the new and upcoming trends.
I love that. And it's so deliberate, but I'm sure it has a tremendous impact. And I'm sure for a lot of the folks, it's probably pretty fun to be able to go out and go, okay, like I either worked in industry for years and now I'm back, I get to check it out. Or for folks who might have gone through a more traditional, we've just, been in education for a long time, they really get to see what's happening. And I'm sure that resonates with all of the faculty. They bring that back to bigger conversations. But I think at the end, that really shows up for the students because they have advice and guidance they can give them that really truly matters instead of going, all right, well, what does that mean? And they show up on site and they go, that didn't make any sense. Nick, anything from your side to add on that as far as, bringing some of these educators in and the conversations you've had?
I think Beth covered it really well. And, we try to disseminate as much knowledge as we can internally and share and give people room to explore, train.
I want to also take a look at your existing teams as well. And I think there's a part of this conversation in the continuing education. Of course, we focus mostly on students so far, but I don't want to leave out the fact that with this endless development of technology, our existing staff also needs to learn how to do more with new tools, new processes. Can you tell me a bit about what that looks like to keep your current teams who might not have come out of university or might not have ever been in university abreast of all the new technology and processes and everything that happens at your organization?
Right. I mean, it's a huge challenge. Right. I mean, all of us have a hard time keeping up, but we're pretty intentional about it. Little things like sending out weekly communications of some new tip, tool, or trick that's been discovered, or having coordination points across the firm, whether it's CAD coordinators or office level CAD coordinators and subject matter experts, hosting brown bags, because you can't just follow one or two things. You've got to have champions within the environment. They're the people that'll go to. We're a relationship company. All of them build tight relationships across the firm. So hey, I'm struggling with a problem. I can go to somebody down the hall and they're going to help me.
Yeah.
Our company philosophy, one of those philosophies is this one profit center idea, so that everybody's willing to help everybody else out. And I think that's a key part of it is when you operate with the spirit of one company and one group of people for your deliverables, then you're going to naturally be inclined to teach people, to share information, and to help people out.
And you have to communicate that too,
And
because
communicate it out.
The rigorous pace of construction means that extra time to do these things just isn't there. And if you say, well, I'm going to get to that later, I'm going to learn how to use ChatGPT later, I'm going to learn how to use whatever new tool we're talking about later, is probably not going to come. And so if you're communicating very deliberately to your team, we are making sure you have time to learn these tools and we're investing in you. I think the sentiment and the interest and enthusiasm in participating, both in somebody who is mentoring or being a mentee, goes a really long way. And for the organizations that just have that as like a leave behind or something that's not very deliberate, you're probably not going to be as competitive in 5 or 10 years as your other peers are going to be.
And it's not just the training program. It's things like being very, very intentional about monitoring and having your thumb on the employee experience around how the tools perform on the laptops and the type of support tickets that come in, and then proactively address people's problems and learn from the environment. And we're very aggressive in that space. We call it white glove support internally, so that you're not only just training them on the tools, you're providing them solutions to the hindrance to being effective and efficient during the week.
I love that. It's all very deliberate. And I want to build on something that Beth actually said earlier, but kick a question to you as well. How do you ensure that folks who are new to the organization think in the way that you like folks thinking at Kimley-Horn? Like there's, I think, a corporate approach or mentality that you're not going to get in university because you haven't worked at that company before, or even if you're coming from a different company. How do you get people up to speed on everything that is Kimley-Horn?
Yeah, I really wish I had my employee experience friends up here with me to answer the question. But there is a lot of intentionality around it. We have a lot of guidance that comes out around our corporate culture, what we call the Kimley-Horn way, kind of your path, all these different things that we do around understanding the core philosophies of the company and the principles and the values. And then that gets translated into your specific role. If you serve clients, there's some specific things around that. If you're in a support to practice function, like what we consider to be IT, there's things we do around that. But I think it's being very intentional about what we do and the fact that in our firm, we really solely only exist to serve clients and then translate everything back from that. And you're going to learn that very quickly when you come in. And when you're an intern, you're going to learn that. You're going to understand that it's all about client delivery and serving the clients, and then you work backwards from that. And we flip that hierarchy around to where the more senior you are, you're more at the support level at the bottom of the pyramid almost, and the clients are up at the top. And I think it's those types of things and being very open and transparent with those that help people understand why we exist and what we do. And then everything else just happens from that.
And it comes back to the intentionality word again, because I've joined companies that had a very good onboarding process who helped share and inform me about everything you're talking about here. And I've joined companies that did not. And the ones that did not, you feel very aimless and you might never feel rooted because there could be a legacy part of the team that just gets it because they've been there for a long time, or you just might bounce around. And I think just being very strategic about that also has a big impact on overall company morale, but also I think it has a big impact on retention because people feel valued. They feel like they know what you're doing, how you're doing it, but I think more importantly, why you're doing it in the way that the company expects and anticipates.
And everybody gets a buddy when you come in. So when you're a new employee or you're an intern, you get a buddy. That buddy is there to help you along the way, learn the firm, and then you build a relationship. And they're not just someone they might not be on your team.
I like that too.
You might have a buddy that's somebody that works in finance and you got hired in production, right? But they're your buddy for a period of time to help you learn the company, learn the ropes.
That's
build
cool.
a relationship.
If I join your company, I'm going to be your buddy. I want to be your buddy.
Me too.
It's a really cool strategy though. And I think the importance of that is, I'm sure it shows up very clearly in the way employees feel and what they've learned.
Yeah.
Beth, I've got another question for you. I mean, we've covered a lot here today, and I'm going to kick this to you as well, Nick. What advice would you offer for other folks, whether they're universities or companies, to replicate or be better in some of the ways that you're talking about here? Like if there's another educator out there who goes, this all sounds cool, like where would you suggest they start?
I suggest they start making these connections. Connections with industry are really going to be paramount to being a successful program. I also think that you've got to have a good, strong, supportive upper management with your college or your university. The great thing that we have is we have support from our dean, our provost, all the way up to the president of our college that really is supportive and fosters the industry relationships that we create. They trust their program directors and their department heads that they're making good decisions for their programs. So I think that's important, making these relationships with people like Autodesk who are willing to come in and train your staff and your students. That's really important. But given these hands-on tools to students while they're in school so that they don't go out with just a bunch of theory and know how to do high-level calculus. You're not doing that every day at work. You need to be able to use these tools, the software or the equipment, depending on what your profession is. But you need to be able to do these hands-on activities and have plenty of experience with them, because just using them once or twice isn't going to do it. You need to be proficient with them. I think those are important. Make the industry relationships and find out what they need.
I love it. Nick, any thoughts on your side?
Yeah, I think you have to recognize and acknowledge that you can't solve the workforce shortage by waiting on the universities. They're solving a different problem. And the emergence of a new labor, I'll call it a labor type for lack of a better way to call it, that problem and that the hours we need, the people we need, the skills we need are going to be solved in technical schools and 2-year colleges. over the next several years, and to acknowledge that and lean into it and not wait for the education system to solve the problem, because they're trying to solve a lot of problems and they're trying to serve a lot of things, and then form that partnership to help solve your workforce pipeline, but then convince and lean into your technology partners, the Autodesk and the other providers out there, to get them to do the same thing. Because many times they're running right past the technical schools and right past the community colleges, and they're funding a university. And that's great because they need funding too, but they also need to spread that out, and jointly we can solve this labor shortage.
I love this perception. And I actually want to click into the challenges of bringing new students into these programs as well. I think construction has struggled from a perception issue for a long time, that it's not a particularly sexy industry, for lack of a better descriptor, of I'm going to be out just pounding nails and hurting my back. I don't think it could be further from the truth anymore with the level of technology and innovation and just exciting things happening. I love both of your thoughts. And Beth, I'd love it if you could start us off. Tell me how you're tackling that perception issue and bringing new students into your programs, or just spreading the word about just how dang cool this industry is.
I mean, I think it's fun to show our flashy equipment. Geomatics equipment's kind of sexy, right? I mean, you bring out your total stations and your scanners, your drones, and a lot of people look at those and think it looks fun. It's like playing video games. You don't show up with your hard hat and your orange vest anymore. You show up with your equipment, and you show up with your software, and you show them what fun things there are out there. We've gone into high schools to try to recruit. We hold open houses in the fall and the spring, and we try to bring our equipment in and make it flashy. But it's not just person in a hard hat and an orange vest anymore. We got to go bigger.
I like it. And it's one thing for me to sit up here. I'm speaking to the existing audience who's already fired up in this. And so I love to hear perspectives like that, because you have access to these students in a way where you go, hey, over here, check this out. Like, this is really cool, and here's why. So I love that perspective. Nick, anything to add on that one? I know your role is a little bit different from, just that direct access to saying, come on over and check this out. But, it's an ongoing problem. I love your perspective.
Yeah, and I think part of it's even going higher level than that, is just saying, in the world of critical infrastructure, there's a lot of things that we do that help the world around you just operate.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think people think of it in that way and say, hey, if you come into this space, whether it's construction or whether it's civil or whether it's water, you're doing things that help make the world a better place, right? Better place to live. And you get to work on things that are going to exist for a lifespan of 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. How cool is it if you're driving around with your friends and you're like, hey, I designed that over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my pond.
That's my pond, or that's my bridge,
yeah.
Right? And just helping realize it's not just grinding out boring work. It's improving the way we all live and interact with each other in our communities. And I think that's super cool.
I love cruising around with like an old superintendent or something. I mean, if you're in a hurry, don't do that because you're not going to get there. But just hearing those stories of like, hey, like I built that, I did that, I had a big part in that. Or even if this is the job that I worked on when I was an intern, and all I did was sweep up drywall. That's fine. It's still cool. It has an impact on everything that we do. And I always say, we all live in the built world, but unless you're in it in the way that we are, people don't think about it that way.
Right.
But every single human touches construction in some capacity, even if the only time it comes up in their mind is I'm mad because I'm stuck in road traffic because there's a bridge under construction or something. And I think we've got to flip that. I love your point there. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And the great thing about having industry partners like Kimley-Horn is they can bring their current projects into our classrooms. If we ask for guest speakers, they're happy to come in, show what they're working on. And a lot of them are local. So, if they can say, oh, they're working on a subdivision that's 20 minutes down the road, when they drive by, they know, they've seen it in the classroom, and they can bring in some of their equipment. And I think those things are good things to get students interested in the program too.
I love it. I think you're doing some really great work on both ends of the spectrum. I'm excited for what's to come. I think there's a lot of room to be optimistic. The darker to edge sometimes comes out more often because it's what gets clicks and what gets people talking. But our industry has a lot to bring, and I'm very excited for what's going to be coming in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And technology is going to play a big role in that as well.
Yep.
I have one more question for both of you, and it's my favorite because I get to ask everybody, and I'm always curious what's going to come. But what is one tool you use on every project, no matter what you're working on? And Nick, I'd love it if you could go first on this one.
I'm going to take a stretch with your question there.
I like it.
I'm going to say my tool is just perseverance, right? The ability to just stay the course, because it's really hard to stay the course now because there's shiny objects everywhere you turn.
Yep.
Fueled by a lot of marketing engines, and you've got to be really, really persistent and just keep people moving towards the goal and objective of what you're doing.
I like it. I have empathy for folks who get caught into shiny new toy syndrome because for so long there was nothing for us. And so now we go, ooh, this is interesting. I want to see that. That might help me out. But you do have to be really deliberate about the tech choices that you make. And you also have to think about, how do these all integrate? How do they help my teams? And is implementing this going to slow us down or frustrate anybody or disrupt our project? So I love that. Like you got to dig in and keep going, for lack of an accidental construction pun there.
Yeah.
Beth, how about you? What's one tool you bring with you?
Okay, so apparently I'm really black and white because he just went into left field with that. But I was going to say Civil 3D. I worked as a stormwater engineer for 10 years, and on every project we worked on, we were using Civil 3D. In my classrooms, I teach a hydrology class, I teach a subdivision planning class. Again, we're using Civil 3D all the way through our curriculum. So for us, it would be Civil 3D, unless I want to go think of like some other idea. But
all right, I'll get that one from you the next time you come on the show.
Okay.
All right. Well, everybody out there listening, I have to say again, thank you so much for joining us and listening to this episode of Digital Builder. And thank you both for sharing your knowledge and wisdom today. This is an absolutely delightful conversation. If you're walking by and you're like, why is that guy yelling into microphones again? I'm your host, Eric Thomas. This is Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. We are video first, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those other fun places. And until the next time, goodbye.